to the Inspire Wealth podcast with Prof, where we dive into the world of real estate investing and wealth building strategies. I'm your host, Mallory Meehan. I'm a real estate professor, attorney, and seasoned investor here to guide you through the ins and outs of creating wealth through real estate. If you're looking to take your real estate knowledge to the next level, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our latest episodes and offerings. Welcome to another episode of Inspire Wealth. I am your host, Prof M, aka Mallory Meehan, and today I'm joined with me, Trevor. Trevor, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you?
I am doing amazing. I'm doing really, really good. I feel amped for today. It's gonna be a fun one. I can't wait.
Love that. Love that. Well, Trevor, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your backstory and kind of what path took you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I am a creative real estate investor, founder of the company called Buyer Beater and Buyer Beater University, where we focus on creative solutions for sellers. But if I'm going to backtrack a bit, first and foremost, I'm an 8-year Marine vet. I thought I was going to do 30 years in the Marines. I absolutely loved it. And while I was I did have an unfortunate situation where, right before my last deployment, my father-in-law had suddenly passed. And when that whole thing happened, you kind of are chasing what your why is. I wanted to provide, this lifestyle for my family. But I asked my command to not go, and they unfortunately said, no. And so when I had to deploy, I'm like, man, I want to find something where I can reclaim my time and not put myself in this kind of predicament again. And so I've always heard about real estate, and I said, you know what, let me just dive into this. And so I ended up taking um, I went to a couple, networking events and started kind of dabbling my way into it until I found, my footing, and it's been great ever since.
I love that. So, when did you buy your first property, and kind of maybe tell us how that deal got structured, and then we'll kind of shift gears from there.
Yeah, I honestly love that question because I come from such a renter's mindset. My mom still to this day, her retirement, plan is me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just moved my mom in with me. I was able to get her over because I'm gonna have my son here in about a week, right?
Oh
So
my
it'd be my
gosh,
second.
congrats.
Thank you. And so she goes, I just kind of want to be a grandma full time. And so we were able to bring her over. But, first and foremost, the biggest thing is how can you get your foot in the door? And so I learned about house hacking, right, through the Bigger Pockets podcast. And so I told my wife, I said, hey, we have the VA loan, right? We're active duty. Why don't we just get something? And she's like, we're not in a position to buy a house. And the thing is, closed mouths don't get fed. So I just rose my hand and said, what do I got to do? Humbled myself in my situation, got in a position to be able to buy something. And you just got to know your first house isn't going to be your forever home for most people. So it was the best purchase we ever made. And I rented out my rooms to my buddies in the military, and they were paying me $1,000 a room for their basic allowance for housing, which was they were saving money. Next thing you know, I just told my wife, I'm like, we're rich, we're doing it. And then you just get bit by the bug. And then we started just, developing a smaller portfolio doing that and just started, becoming tried and true into other aspects. So really was just getting a property to rent it out. And my wife and I, we had the mentality of going, this isn't forever, but this is a great way to expedite where we want to be. And so we took that temporary sacrifice to put us in that position, which I think most of us should do if we have the means to.
No, absolutely. And I think if I could go back and tell my younger self, like, what's one thing you should do, house hacking would have been the
I know.
thing. Like, it's just crazy. Okay, so you had your first home, you bought it with a VA loan.
Yes.
So, do you still have that home? Is that still in your portfolio?
No, it's not. It wasn't. And this is exactly where the cool thing is once you start getting into the right rooms, you realizing how many times I need to get slapped on the wrist when you first start out, right? Because
Mhm.
you fell forward into it. Do I regret selling? Of course. California, now you can't even buy a freaking outhouse in Southern California, for 500,000. But I think it was a great way to start, and I believe in imperfect actions better than perfect non-action. So I just thought I had to roll it over instead of 1031ing and things of that nature, until I really put myself in more of a full-time position, which is why things like this are great for people who realize that you can do this as a hobby and really set yourself up for success.
Absolutely. Okay, so this was a property in California. Where are you currently?
So I'm in Temecula, California.
Okay, so just a different
Mhm.
part of California.
Just about an hour more north, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So talk to me about kind of how your strategy changed after you decided like, okay, we like the house hacking thing, it's creating some passive income. What was the next thing that came about?
Well, I ended up getting a little carried away because once you start kind of seeing those checks, you go, wait, I could put a bunk bed in these rooms. And then I go, oh, I could put a bed in the living room. Mallory, it was like an actual barracks in my house. And my wife,
Oh,
she was a little overwhelmed. She was like, look, I dig it, but come on. There's only enough room in a fridge for a couple people. And I'm like, well, we can get another fridge. And she's like, no, and so we did that for about a couple years. And it transitioned because my father-in-law, when he was alive, that was the last thing he saw. He goes, dude, I love the hustle. I respect it, but my daughter deserves way better than this, right? And so it was a great way to end the chapter, go into something else. And that's where I said, we got some money, right? Let's go into active income real estate. And that's where I mainly found wholesale real estate, which to me is a great way to bridge the gap between a seller and a quick solution. I don't think it's the means to an end on all fronts. If they need to close within 30 days, they need to accept their reality. And as I was doing wholesale and getting some good traction with that, I found Pace Morby, right? I found other people doing more creative measures. And I was already wholesaling. And when they didn't like my cash offer, it's a dead deal. And so it's a hamster wheel. And then as I'm flirting with the old ladies and talking war stories with the men, I was able to get my license because I go, you know what? If they don't like my cash offer, I'm just going to list it. I'm going to be the Ryan Serhant of real estate and just list all these homes. And then you realize I'm just listing homes nobody wants because they're,
yeah.
you know, they're in distress. And so I said, what's the middle? What's the middle ground? And that's where I found Novations. And I was able to go to a listing appointment. It was my first one in Rosamond, California. I was still in the service, so still active duty. It was on a weekend. And I was going to offer cash, but they owed like 20K more on their VA loan. It was an Air Force, it was an Air Force personnel. And I said, okay, well, you can't go wholesale. So I go, well, I can list it. And as I walked in, he was already in the midst of improvement, so it wasn't in the best position. And he goes, I got a couple weeks till I gotta go on my orders to Colorado. And I said, okay, well, what if I just come in, and I just pay to finish the renovations, right? And then I lock you in a certain amount, and then any, appreciation I create through the renovation piece that we collaborate on, I'll just take as my return on investment. And then when I list it, I'll just cover all your realtor fees and closing costs. He was like, where do I sign? And I go, wow, that is a great way to come into it. I've never done this. So I got the right paperwork involved. After a couple weeks, we renovated it and we sold it for 5,000 more. And that was my entire yearly staff sergeant salary in one deal. And I never looked back.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think that that really shows that there's no means that can't be solved when, people are in a bind and people have some sort of a problem. It's just all about finding what solutions are going to work with people. So I love that you are now doing kind of this same process with other flips, I guess you could call them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me about building your team because I think it's really important about who is involved with some of these transactions and how you're ensuring that everything is going to cross the line.
That's a really good question, actually. And so as we got success, I was a solopreneur. It was just me and my wife. For now, we found this model. We're like, hey, she was already a transaction coordinator at the time, and she was a loan processor, going to get her NMLS. Now she's stay-at-home mom, and she loves it, but she makes me sound smart all the time. She always still underwrites our deals, but I started doing a couple a quarter, making good money. And then I realized, wow, I started talking to my buddies and they go, look, they're fix and flippers or they're wholesalers or they're agents. And they go, well, this listing that I have needs 20K and it can be worth another 60 and things of that nature. So I'm teaching them and they go, I don't really want to learn, but I want to have this as an avenue. So could I just give you other deals? And so I became more of a dispositions company. To this
Hmm.
day, I still don't go direct to seller. It's been years. And so I initially built myself out with my acquisitions. So, well, first and foremost, I apologize. My partner Robert, he bought into my vision and my company. He was a commercial agent, and he goes, "Screw this! I want to do that. That sounds awesome." And he's a great operations guy. So I built out an acquisition. I think that is the first hire if you want to maybe delegate your time and take your energy into scaling, right?
Mhm.
You need to be able to have somebody who can set that time to be able to continue to funnel. After my acquisitions manager, I was able to get a dispositions manager because the moment that we acquire opportunity, I have to be able to find a good agent to list it, find my contractors, create seller updating. And it really is just removing myself to reclaim my time for what? For the scaling again, right? And so I did both of those. And, if I'm going to be real, I ended up scaling. I flew way too close to the sun, Mallory. I think you get so involved with where you could go instead of what the numbers are giving you. So 3 years ago, I put like 6 people on salary. I said we're gonna do this
Wow.
everywhere. I know, and it works until it doesn't work.
Mhm.
And I was able to scale down. People think now we have 6 employees, but people think the more people you got, the more lean and green you're going to be, and it's not the
Mhm.
case. And so right now we have an acquisitions manager, follow-up specialist, a dispositions manager, a transaction coordinator, and a project manager. And that's our team right now.
I love that. So are they all salaried, or do you have them kind of based on, what they're bringing to the table as far as like the deal flow, or how do you structure that?
Where we're at now, they're all salaried except our project manager. They get a position of the net revenue that we're able to take off of our deals, our proceeds that we receive. The rest, though, they're a base salary plus commission, and we've been able to make sure that we've incentivized it very well and put us in a good position to always. One of our core values is family first, so we always want to operate with them and with integrity, and so they were able to see the growth of what we have. And so we've been able to incentivize that growth with them. And they've been with me for years now. So it's been amazing.
I love that. I love that. So this is a question that I like to ask my guests that are kind of like, I'm going to say in the thick of things. So I want you to tell me about a deal that went sideways, but then I
Okay.
also want you to tell me about a deal that was a home run and kind of give me both perspectives so that our listeners can really understand, the good, bad, and the ugly when it comes to real estate.
I got plenty of both. Um, I'll
Pick your
use
favorite.
I'll use one of my favorites because people always ask on the side of the scalability. They go, "Wow, so you put a lot of money in these deals?" And we've done upwards of $300,000 into homes for homeowners, and there's levels of protection. But there was one in San Diego, and it's always the ones in your backyard. It's always the ones that you think you don't have to put your nose under that end up going a little awry. One of my contractors, not gonna name names, we've done about 4 deals together. Just took him to an NFL Rams game. He was my go-to guy in SoCal. I think he got bit by the bug, and maybe we made it look too easy in a sense, and so I knew he was hurting because he was trying to do his first flip. I gave him another project that was in San Diego. Unfortunately, we ended up doing an audit on what we had, and we couldn't account for about $60,000 of material. And I think he took that for his other kind of rob Peter to pay Paul kind of deal. And we sat him down. I let him go, and we go to walk our new PM or our PM goes to walk our new contractor the next day at the property, and they go to find him and his family in there lighting our house on fire in San Diego. They poured gasoline everywhere. They lit it on fire,
What?
and they weren't even trying to hide it, right? And so I'm actually at a lunch. I'm at an investor lunch, and my PM calls and he goes, "Hey, brother, we got a fire." And I'm like, "Oh, what we got today?" And he's like, "No, we got like a legit fire. This isn't a business fire." Cops got called. Everybody came in, and the funny thing is, I mean, there's silver linings. That property sold beautifully to a VA. We disclosed everything, sold to a VA buyer, which, by the way, Marine, they thought it was hilarious. They thought it was super funny because Marines, that's what we tend to do. And he burnt down a wall, and towards the kitchen that we weren't going to remove, and now we opened the kitchen up, and it looks way better without that wall. So there was some silver lining there, and yeah, he unfortunately, we go to press charges, and he threatened the family. He goes, "Hey, you know what? I've done your roof. I've done improvements to your house. I know where your family lives." And it's really unfortunate how quickly people can turn with the foundation of finance, right? I mean, it unfortunately can really run or ruin people's lives. And we gave him great business. And that was one where I had to kind of take a step back and evaluate, put things in writing, and just go, you know what? You're going to come across people like that, but it's not going to deter you from doing the right kind of business. I
Mhm.
don't regret the decision I made to get him out of there because I do think it would have happened sooner or later. And it's just what my attorney called a really expensive lesson.
We attorneys like to classify those, it's at least the silver lining. You got to learn something, however,
Yeah, yeah, we did. We did.
so, but you know. Okay, so that's putting out fires, literally and figuratively. So tell us about a home run. Like, when did you find that you were like, I nailed this deal?
Oh my goodness. We had a deal in Chino, California. And to this day, I still get Christmas cards and birthday cards from the sellers. And it's just so sweet because they were getting an offer. It was a very, dilapidated house. It was stud up. It was really ugly. It was one of those ugly houses. And
Mhm.
they inherited it because their father had just passed. They lived right down the street. They didn't know what to do with it. Blue collar family, didn't have the funding to renovate it. They thought that when he had passed, they can use some of the inheritance or even the equity on the home or their home to refinance, cash out refi or do a HELOC. They couldn't they couldn't get approved, and so it really hindered their spirits. So they were getting a lot of cash offers, to close quickly, but this property meant a lot to them. And so they were getting offered about 300 and, 50, 360,000. We came in there, we were to offer $430,000, which is $80,000 more with the model. We said, hey, let's come in there, let's walk it. And I said, okay, well, hey, why don't we just do this, right? Let's lock you into 430,000 guaranteed, 80,000 more than what you've been able to see for a year. It was sitting, they're getting offers for a year, and they were getting lower. And I said, what we're going to do is we're going to collaborate. I understand how much this means to you, right? I understand residential real estate can be very emotional as well. So let's come in there. I'll personally pay to renovate your home, and I did my novation model, our equity split model, and we thought it was going to sell for about 750,000. They did a private walkthrough. Their entire family came over. We had a great dinner in the house. Really got to see it and kind of let the season of mourning come in. That way they can see this beautiful house be transformed and um, they felt very proud of it. We sold it for $830,000, so I went 80,000 over asking.
God.
I asked to even give them some more funding, and they said no. They said they were very excited of where it went. The entire process was great. They've referred so much business, which has been great for retaining clientele, and they send us Christmas cards. Yeah, due to the fact that we were able to really help them through a situation like that, and that's when it clicked. And I go, wow, once you have a passion behind your purpose, profit will absolutely follow.
Mhm.
And I've just leaned into that model with our team, and integrity became one of our great core values. And these situations come up all the time now, so that was a really fun one.
Oh, I love that. Passion behind purpose. I think that that's a clear, straightforward message that everybody should live by for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so you've done a lot of deals in California. Now tell me about how you're trying to transition maybe yourself into entering new markets and some of the lessons that you've learned or some of the things that you've kind of figured out when you're trying to get into a market that you haven't either been familiar with or you haven't, done a deal in.
Yeah, we've done deals in just about every state. Our biggest five markets would be California, Arizona is a very big one, Nevada, Texas, and Florida, right? I will say yes to just about every deal within, 30 miles of a major city there. We have really good teams set up in those areas, through the community and through people that we have traveled to the deals. But you pose a really good question. I may say no more than yes, but if it's a good deal in a good market, it can look really good on paper, but because we're not there, you have to really understand kind of the black and white formality of what a deal is. I could be making a 200% cash on cash return, but you're not looking at days on market or the weather over there or things of that nature that you can't just let you can't get what we call deal breath. You know what I mean? You got to be able to rinse your mouth out of that deal breath. So we'll go over there, and the cool thing about the community piece is I go, well, how can I still have a pulse everywhere? If you have a good area, let's say like, for you on that East Coast side, if you know a market, then what we'll do is we'll just collaborate, right? I'll have you more so property manage it. We can fund the deal or we can go half on it. And, we can just teach you our model of how we do it. And that way we can just kind of take a consulting fee and just give you the entire underwriting procedure and the authority to get the deal to the finish line. So that way we can establish ourselves slowly with you as the subject matter expert who's local. And that's been really cool, right? That's been really cool. And we've done that successfully in our biggest five markets. But other than that, we're probably going to put 5,000 or less in these deals.
Got it. No, that makes total sense. So let's talk about your investing strategies. And so you do a lot of let's fix this up, let's sell it, let's get equities. So I'm going to just call that the fixer flip model.
Seller finance flipping or something.
Seller
Yeah.
finance flipping, yeah. And then what other types of real estate models are you generally looking at? Do you have a sweet spot? Like what are you seeing in today's market that maybe you're kind of trying to do more of?
Yeah, we just got back from Arizona. We go out there quite often. I'm a pretty good, I'm a cookie cutter. I understand what my buy box is. We don't really stray away from that with the seller finance models. But we do really lean into luxury flips in Arizona. Anything about 800,000 to 2 million. We don't see the market being too weary over there. It's not too shaky. A lot of people are 1031ing or they're positioning all cash. Um, I guess I could just quick spiel in Arizona if you don't mind.
No, absolutely. Go for
Okay.
it. Let's hear it.
The reason why we like that area, and it was pointed out to us, is that there are five major sports teams that are out there, and we're not really identifying ourselves with that clientele. Them personally, because they're 8-0 plus. That's not where we're at right now. But their family, their mothers, their fathers, their cousins, their friends, they get hit up, and we found some great agents who are local and privy to the marketing of that. And it's been really good to kind of reverse engineer it. We find our buyers before we find our properties now. And so we feel confident doing more luxury out there. And that's kind of where we've parked a lot of our time, which is a great way to go about flipping. And in my eyes, really find your buyer and then find where you want to buy. Same with wholesale, same with anything. Another thing that we do we just hit 30 doors for midterms over in Texas. So I know we spoke briefly, before we ended up going live, but I truly think, with this generation coming up, congested living is really the way to go. People don't want the responsibility. Unfortunately, you totally should lean into home ownership. But coming from that college dormitory lifestyle, transitioning, with your friends just to a house to be able to kind of set yourself up, the average age of when, your priorities fall to kind of have that responsibility is a lot higher. And so we operate at about 100% occupancy.
Mm.
Starbucks baristas, anybody that's in that side of low middle class to save up for a home. Um, and that's been great. I just want to get more of those. I want to give a great area for them to have that escape. And we go through the company called Pad Split. So I will say by the end of 2025, I want to have 100 doors,
Nice.
for that.
I love that. So, okay, we've identified that Arizona is definitely a hot market for luxury. Texas, is there a particular part of Texas that you're focused on the midterm?
Yeah, we're Dallas, New Braunfels, Leander, Another thing is we got approached by Pad Split, which is a company that we use. It's like a property management company. It's like,
Mhm.
have you heard of Pad Split?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. So the big thing with them is we just said, where do you need us to be? Like, where do you
Oh,
have people on a wait list? And they go, oh, these areas, and we
oh my
run
God.
a real
Brilliant.
estate company. Yeah, and I
Brilliant.
was like, okay, so I can just be aggressive in those areas, right? And then you build relationships with the agents. And most of our deals that we got on market are we're on market, just agents going, man, it's been a couple months. And we've even been able to partner with the seller, right? If they were vacant, I've locked them in. I've novated the house to fit pad split standards, subject to myself on title, refinance the A to B out. And now I'm just getting doors with none of my own money and renovating them without having to open up hard money.
Isn't that
You know what I
amazing?
mean? It's
That's
just so
amazing.
cool.
It's
It's
so
so cool.
cool. I love that. And so people who want to learn more about this can actually go to your community, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Buyerbeateruniversity.com. And we teach all creative solutions for sellers that best, kind of fit you and where you're at and what you want to do.
Love that. Okay, so let's talk about where the market is shifting and where, 2025 puts us. And what do you envision your business looking like next year at this time?
Well, we have our quarterly rocks that we hit. We have our, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year goal. Our 10-year goal is $60 million in revenue, right? So we're just taking steps to get up to that. I will say I'm pretty optimistic, where we're at. I don't want to get too political on things. I do think that providing certain tariffs in our country, kind of positioning us to to an economy that can help best represent where we're at. Just when I mean that by lowering the inflation piece, it's always going to more so create a seller market. So I do think, whether, whatever side you're leaning, just identifying the fact that maybe putting some money in real estate could be beneficial to you and your family, at your own rate. Um, from where we're at, I will say we will probably focus more um, in our midterm, approaches. I do think that that's going to be a great thing to lean into, as well as probably more of the luxury space. So I'd like to be able to continue our quarterly goals. I mean, we try to do about $500,000 in revenue, a quarter, and then we want to bleed that directly into trying to double our standard by parking more funding into being able to lean against what we already hold. So I want to just start being able to collateralizing my assets to borrow more to build more.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so a couple more questions for you. One, if I am a young person and I'm thinking about getting into real estate, what do you suggest as being the best avenue to kind of maybe like dip your toes to get into the real estate game?
You know, I love this question because my favorite thing to do is, you got to become numb to the no. If you want to get into real estate, you want to get into sales, you want to make a bunch of money and become a millionaire, what I like to do is even see if you're cut out for it. Go on your phone right now after you listen to this, call everybody in your contacts list, right? And say, I'm going to be getting into real estate. Hey, Aunt Shirley, haven't spoken in a year or 2 years. Just want to let you know I'll be getting my license or I'm going to be positioning myself in the industry. If you or anybody that needs any help or advice within the next couple months, please reach out to me. Two reasons. You're going to be nervous as hell to call everybody, right? But numb to the no, get in front of it. Sphere of
Mhm.
influence is huge.
Yep.
And then two, when Aunt Shirley calls you in a couple months and you got nothing to show for it because this was just another fad, you're going to look a little stupid, right? So it's going to hold you accountable to setting the standard that you want. That's kind of what I did. I was like, I can do this. Ignorance is bliss. I went
Mhm.
over there and did that. And it's funny that, closed mouths, they don't get fed, right? So I just reached out and they provided me with opportunity. I was able to have some people in my contacts that I had no idea owned rentals. And they were like, yeah, well, you can even pick my brain, and I go, what? And so I started leaning into that. And you realize that people just do business with people, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole industry, And so it's not about what starting out. It really is about who you know. So fostering those relationships with just whoever's in your contact is going to set you up a lot quicker than paying for some course and trying to take action in 3 months.
Love that. While I can agree, I still think education is the platform of how you get to the next level.
I completely agree with that, right? A big thing to transition into that is not recreating the wheel, right?
Yes.
So I just want at the initiative piece, but I absolutely, right? Whether it's through BBU, whether it's through things that you're presenting as well, I am always a student, which means that I understand that you got to be able to pay to play. I want to put myself in those right rooms with the right people and not recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
And so the most success I've ever gotten from real estate or how we find success is because I just throw up what people tell me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I just do this. Okay, I'm just gonna do that. And
Hmm.
next thing you know, you're doing it. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And
absolutely.
so, yeah,
I think one of the best things that you can actually invest in is yourself. And so I
yeah,
think to your point, it's like you're investing in yourself by taking that initiative to like reach out to people, to build some confidence, to push yourself in uncomfortable situations. Because I think part about getting into real estate is just being uncomfortable or being comfortable with being
being
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it's so unfortunate because I mean, there is a paywall, with me as well, right? It's all about, putting yourself in a position to earn my time to teach you what you want to learn, right? And vice versa. And so when it's transaction oriented, you go, hey, here, teach me. It holds us both accountable,
Yeah.
right? To a certain standard. Now, it really just is unfortunate, and you see this, I'm sure you see it too, is when people they feel it because the grass is greener, they get involved with it but they want that instant gratification. So they're trying for a couple weeks, and then you don't hear from them because they're doing insurance or something else now. And it's like, just stick with it. When
Yeah.
when things get tough, everyone trust me. When you think there's rock bottom, it's not. You know what I mean? You're an entrepreneur. You are creating your own schedule. You create your own destiny. And guess what? The harder you work, the luckier you get. So
Absolutely.
delve into something. And so I just always want to be able to hit that with anybody who's on the fence. Just do it and then
Yeah.
stick with it.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I see a lot with people is the shiny object syndrome.
Oh yeah.
where it's like, oh, well, I just read this and this like made this person money and this made this person money and I want to try this and then I want to try that. And so like, were you ever susceptible to shiny object syndrome, or how do you kind of teach people to really like, let's focus on the game at hand?
That's a great point. I'll be completely honest, right? Anybody listening, they should read two books, right? Rocket Fuel and Traction. I think those are great, books to be able to set yourself up for understanding what personality you are. I am a textbook visionary.
Yes.
Mallory, we get off the phone. I'm like, we should totally have you on my community. We should totally do this. I am blasting off all the time, you
Yeah.
know? But my integrator is my partner, Robert, where he's able to go, that sounds like a great idea. Let's put a bookmark in this because we're doing this right now, And so being able to fire yourself and put somebody in there that might be more qualified to fit our standards is a great way to go forward, right? I think partnerships, you can really lean on that left to right lateral limits. And staying grounded with that. So there's nothing wrong with it, but it's able to identify what your weaknesses are and do the SWOT analysis behind it. And that is a huge thing to really set yourself up
Huge.
correctly. Because
Huge.
if it was just me, yeah, we'd be and it's unfortunate. Luckily, my wife is like, no, like, hold on, honey, and so I was able to get in front of that. But by yourself, identify what those weaknesses are. And I'm not saying hire somebody, but I'm
Right.
just saying understand what you need to think twice on, what you need to weigh a day to maybe, pull the trigger with, and that
Mhm.
could really set you up a lot easier than impulse action with this industry.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would say, and like I'm just like you, I'm a visionary. I am like, oh my God, what's the next thing that we can do?
Yeah.
Like, let's collab, like let's do this.
Yeah.
I think what I've also learned is that, especially if you're a young person trying to get into this industry, it should be about how you can add value to somebody else. So going out and
Oh,
seeking those
love that.
mentors and being a mentee, and rather than asking for something, offer what you have. And like a lot of these young people are like, I don't have money, like I don't have capital, but you know what? I do have a car and I do have a phone. So I can be driving for dollars, or I can be, calling up potential sellers or buyers. And I think if you put that initiative out there, like that's truly kind of where, an additional momentum might have like help these young people get into this industry.
That's a huge point. It's sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
It's your sweat
Mhm.
equity that you can put into something. Some of our biggest movers that have changed their lives through BBU and doing our model are people who just reach out and go, hey, what do you need?
Mhm.
Because I don't got this, right? But how can I be able to add value to what you have? And then holding yourself to that standard, right? If we go, hey, we'll
Absolutely.
come here, do this, this is what I need. And if you're one to flake on that, your goodwill bank's already lower. You got to build up that goodwill bank, start depositing things in there to really increase your balance, and then from there, it can really, you start being able to be in here. We start fostering a relationship, friendship, and your network is your net worth. So
Yeah.
you come in those right rooms. You've just
Right.
cemented yourself around movers, that can really help you, and shape the way of your life.
No, absolutely. So, Trevor, let me ask you a question. What are you looking for that maybe our listeners might have that could be something that you can benefit from?
I love that. I am looking, ooh, wow. What am I looking for? I'm always going to say something easy on this side because it is something very simple and tangible for the listeners is deals. And I'm not talking about paying to get deals. There's very simple ways to get in front of opportunity by opening your mouth and just trying to create civil discourse and then bringing those opportunities to us. Because and through the community, I'll attach you to the equity on those deals. If you find it, we fund it. We take it to the finish line. I don't find my own deals. The only way that I can eat is if you eat. And so if you want to raise a question of how to find those, I think it'd be a great benefit for both of us to work together.
Love that. Love that. Okay, so I know that you gave a recommendation on two books. So you said Rocket Fuel and what was the other book?
Traction.
Traction. Okay. Are you currently reading any good books that you are like, yes, this is a must read for somebody like really looking to get into real estate? Or, like, I don't know, mindset, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I just finished Traction. I read Rocket Fuel. We'll end up getting in front of that. Seven Habits of a Highly Effective People is a really, really good book. Depending on if you want to build a community out and really get in front of, prospecting, especially when you're building an agency, the book Superfan is a really good book to really cultivate a culture of having people drink the Kool-Aid that you're presenting and how to keep them. $100 Million Offer is a great book by Alex Hermosi, right? To be able to scale your business, $100 Million Leads, those are just really, and that also kind of translates to the mindset piece of what you have. But if you're like ground level, I mean, come on, you got a Rich Dad Poor Dad, that bad boy. You got a Robert Kiyosaki. It's the Burr Method by David Green is what I read to get into house hacking. You just made it sound so simple, and the next thing you know, it kind of is that simple. And so I would recommend that book. And it's probably about it right now. Start with those and then
Yeah,
reach out. We'll
I
see
love
what else
that.
we're working on.
I
Yeah.
love that. Well, one last piece of advice you would give to people who are maybe on the fence or really just trying to get that motivation to get started in investing.
Yeah, I think I hit it earlier, but it is something that I have my team reiterate every week, and that is imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. I mean, you can listen to this, but analysis paralysis is going to consume 99.999% of people.
Mhm.
And I had a great quote that I heard, and it said, nobody knows what they're doing, but some do it anyway. So choose to be that person that wants to fail forward into something, because I'll tell you right now, that initiative is going to go a lot farther than 99%. And so all those lights don't need to be green to go. And all those cliche things I'll tell you right now is exactly how you get there.
Mhm.
It's exactly what you
Absolutely.
do, and so lean into that side. It's a lot easier than you think when you decide to get some momentum behind you. Just put on your shoes and start trying to jog towards your goals.
I love that. All right, so listeners out there, get off your butts and get moving.
What she said. What Mallory's saying. Yes.
Trevor, thank you so much for being on the show. It was so great having you. And we'll definitely stay in touch. I'll leave some information in the show notes for people to be able to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, I would say on my Instagram, you can schedule up a 30-minute call with me, or you can go directly to my DMs. I answer every single one of them. Or you can email me at trevor@buyerbeater.com. But that's Trever. I'm on no keychain ever. I'm an ER guy. And then you can reach out that way.
I understand I'm usually never on a keychain either, so it's okay. We're in there together. So, all right. Well, that wraps it for another episode of Inspire Wealth. I'm Prof M. Out. And for those who want a more hands-on learning experience, check out our online courses at inspirewealtheducation.com. Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand your investment portfolio, I've created step-by-step guides and resources to help you achieve your financial goals. So hit that subscribe button and let's start building your wealth one episode at a time.